It is my honor to have Tom Doss to be with us in this conference and for this Facebook Live. The title of his talk, or actually it's more of a satsang for the Know Thyself conference, is Freedom from Suffering. And I know that every single one, anybody that's watching this has an idea what that might be. But we're going to ask Tom to tell us a little bit about the title to his talk. Maybe he'll give a short talk before he opens it up to self-inquiry, because Tom's one of his main teachers, and if you read his bio, you'll see that Ramana Maharshi was very influential in his spiritual awakening, and so was Krishnamurti, and a few others that let's see, it was Krishnamurti, Buddhism, the Tao, mystic Christianity. And Tom, you mentioned in your bio that you had a little bit of a spiritual awakening at 18 years old.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
That's an amazing age to have a spiritual awakening. What was that like at 18 years old? Did it change the trajectory of your young adult life? Tell us more about that.
It did and it didn't. In a way, the awakening didn't change my trajectory. I was already hooked on the seeking, the whole spiritual seeking thing for a few years prior. From my early teenage years, I stumbled across a couple of books on my parents' bookshelf, and they really inspired me and got me interested in the idea of spirituality, the idea that religion or spirituality wasn't just something you believe in. It wasn't, oh, I have to believe something that somebody has told me and there's no evidence for it. But it was something that I could come to experience or know somehow for myself. And this really interested me. I had quite a scientific mind, so that was fascinating to me. And so when I was 18 and I had this spiritual experience, the way you phrased it, the way you framed it was that, oh, I was quite young. And of course, 18 is young, but I didn't feel young. I was looking for that spiritual experience for several years before it happened. So it didn't feel like, oh, I'm so young, I've got a spiritual experience. It's like, oh, at last, I've got some first-hand verification of all this stuff I've been reading, meditating upon, practicing. So it didn't change my trajectory because I was already on there.
Yes.
But it certainly reinforced it. It reinforced and reinvigorated my seeking. And ironically, even though it was a first-hand spiritual experience, it pushed me more into books and reading. Because I thought, oh, I want this back. I want this back. How do I get it back? And I tried to get it back. It didn't come back. This experience of oneness, of timelessness, of being one with everything, of there being no self. This experience came and went, and it was profound, and it was undeniable. But then I thought, I need this back. I want this back. And so I spent many years trying to get this back. Sometimes I was really seeking quite desperately. Other times I was fed up with seeking, but it's always there in the background, churning away, You can't, once you get that seeking bug, it doesn't seem to, once you really get it, it doesn't go away. It just stays there until you discover what you're looking for.
Yeah. It's like a pleasant gnawing.
Well, it wasn't always pleasant. I was suffering a lot as well,
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a pleasant background thing, like a humming in the background. Other times it's like pain. For me, it was pain. It was awful.
Wow.
And it felt like a curse. Sometimes it felt like a blessing. Sometimes it felt like a curse. I felt isolated. I felt alone. You know, I was a kid, and I was trying to talk to my peers, my friends,
Mhm.
about this stuff. You know.
Yeah. And that's one of the thoughts that I had when I read that in your bio, is that what it must have been like for your friends at 18 years old to have you interested in. I mean, you said that they gave you a New Testament, they gave you some spiritual in school, they gave you some spiritual literature. It was really moving. You moved from the idea of how cool Jesus was in the Gospels directly to an experience that was way different than what the Gospels give you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, traditionally at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading. By the time I was 18, I'd already read, you know, a few books on Buddhism, a few books on Hinduism. I'd come across Alan Watts. I'd come across J. Krishnamurti. I'd come across the Bhagavad Gita, Shankara. I'd come across Patanjali. I was doing yoga. I was meditating. Well, I was taught yoga and meditation from a very young age by my mother. You know, so that was before my spiritual seeking started. And so, you know, I was I'd read the New Testament, and I'd read bits of the Old Testament already by the age of
Mhm.
18. I was, you know, I'd been searching for a few years. So it might sound like a lot. I wasn't sort of, it was just a little bit here, a little bit there, but over a few years, it accumulates. And before you know it, you've read a lot, you know, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. Well, what about your peers? Were they on board with this spiritual seeking, or were you like way different?
Well, I mean, I didn't call myself a spiritual seeker. You know, that's what looking back, that's what I call it now. At the time, I was just interested in these things, and I wanted to discover God or truth or love or something like this for myself. I didn't really understand, even though I'd read all this stuff, I didn't really understand what they were pointing to. But I felt, looking back, I was resonating with them, you see. Looking back, I can say there was a resonance there. At the time, I wouldn't have used that word. I just didn't have that kind of vocabulary. And, you know, at that age, there was no YouTube. The internet was very, well, I didn't have access to the internet. You know, in my family home, you know, the internet wasn't really there. And because I was a child, I wasn't sort of going to spiritual groups and things, you know, because that wasn't available to me. There was nothing in my local area. So I had a couple of friends who I used to speak to this about this kind of thing with. One of them was quite interested in philosophy. I was also reading, you know, some philosophy, some Western philosophy, you know, a bit of Socrates, a bit of Plato, Kant, Schopenhauer, things like this. I was just nothing in too much detail, but I was seeking, right? So I was just anything that sounded remotely interesting, I would try and read about. I'd try and talk to someone about it. I used to go to in my school, there were a group of people who are Christian. So I used to go along to the Christian meetings as well and ask them questions about Christianity. We used to go to church on a Sunday. I used to go to the Sunday school, and I used to ask questions in the Sunday school. I'm sure I was just really annoying. I'm sure I was just a really annoying person to be around, because and seriously, because I would have been asking lots of awkward questions. I didn't have a sense of a filter. So I didn't have a sense of, okay, maybe I shouldn't ask these questions in this environment. I'd just ask. If I wasn't sure about something, I'd just ask. So I'm sure it was, you know, people were nice to me, but you know, I didn't get the answers I was looking for, so I keep on asking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you also had a fairly liberal household, and
Mm.
for your parents to have the books on their shelf that that are just open, that are more of an open expression. It gave you like a field of not only of research, but also to have that household that wasn't like fixed on Christianity or fixed on Buddhism or fixed on some one spiritual path. It gave you an open space to discover.
I think you're right. I think that's very perceptive. Yes, I agree. In that respect, I was very lucky. I think, neither of my mother became I was brought up in a Hindu household. My mother had converted to Christianity. My dad, he wasn't. He was Hindu officially, as I guess, but he wasn't a devout Hindu. It was more a cultural thing. In the same way, some people might call themselves Christian, but they don't really go to church. They maybe celebrate Christmas and Easter. It was a bit like that. My dad was Hindu, or he is. My dad's Hindu, but at the time he would just kind of, would go to the festivals, the pujas, and celebrate those. And it's a cultural thing, but very scientific. Both my parents have science backgrounds. I have a science background. It was very open-minded, and it's a part of our kind of culture. The part of India, the culture of my parents. A part of the culture is to be very open-minded about and very tolerant about religion and beliefs and diversity, and intellectual curiosity. That's kind of a part of the way I was brought up, which I'm very grateful for. I guess.
I could see that. We the way I grew up was I believed in God because my mother and father did, but it was just there must be something, so I'll just go with that, and that was about it. And as far as having a belief around my friends, if you attached your name to Jesus, you were immediately a Jesus freak, and you were not well thought of. So I went more in the direction of what the hippie era was offering. It was more inviting. I had a good friend, a young woman. She was into Khalil Gibran, and we thought, oh my God, who are you? Because we were just into music, we were into the pop festivals and the music and this new exciting culture called the hippie culture. We were more into that. So I'm a little bit jealous for you having that household that really was more spiritually minded, and also the generation that's more spiritually minded.
Well, I can see why you think that. It's actually quite funny because I don't usually talk about my personal stuff too much because I like to keep it about the teachings, but I'm happy to. And I don't know if it's helpful to share this, but my dad actually was worried about me when I was about 15, 16, because he could see I was really interested in this stuff. And my dad's not that interested in that. At the time, he wasn't that interested in spiritual things. And his main purpose for me was, look, I need to do well in my exams. We've got sets of exams. My family are very pro-education. So I need to do well in my studies. In the UK, we have these exams when you're 16 called GCSEs. And then again, when you're 18, A-levels. And he wanted to make sure I'm doing well in my A-levels and not just wasting my time talking to these people about philosophy and, religion, and reading these religious books that, are superstitious and things like that. So, he was a bit worried that I was going to not do well in my studies. As it happened, I always made sure I did well in my studies. So he was happy for me to carry on reading the spiritual stuff. And I remember him talking to one of his friends about me, being quite concerned. And his friend said, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a phase he's passing through. It's just a phase. Tom's just passing through a phase." But look, I'm still in that phase. That phase has never ended.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I remember hearing my dad speaking in the Indian language to his friend, and his friend saying that it's just a phase he's going through. And I remember thinking, don't think it's a phase.
Yeah. Don't think it's a phase.
Because I
Well,
knew this is a passion for me.
yeah. Yeah. You knew there was, it was truth. It was actually, it was you calling you at that level of awareness in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, I could say something like that. At that time, I didn't have any of those words, but you know, I was obsessed, but
yes.
in a heartfelt way, not in a, I mean, maybe slightly unhealthy at times, but generally speaking, in a healthy way. I was
Yeah.
just so interested. It was a passion.
Yes. Well, it takes a passion to for that energy, that attraction, that obsession. I mean, if you want the truth, in my mind, it has to be the thing you want the most, more than anything. Those were paraphrased words of Jesus when he said, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a person that finds treasure on a piece of land and goes and sells everything to buy that piece of land. That's it. You have to be willing to sell everything, let everything fall away, including your identity.
Well, Bill, I mean, that's true. I agree, but I don't like to say that personally, because I think most people don't have that kind of fervor, and I haven't always had that kind of feeling. When I was a teenager, it was a passion, but if you said you've got to give up everything for it, I don't know if I would have been able to, I don't know if I would have liked that idea.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so, I mean, it's something that can grow. It's something that can, for me at least, it's something that's grown over time. That the idea of having to let go of everything for some people can be very scary. And some people think, how can I let go of everything?
Yeah.
My friends, my family, my possessions, whatever it is, my house, my security. But what happens, or my experience is that as you dive deeper into the spiritual and you realize more and more what you are, you get your security from that.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you happily and willingly let go of these things. You, at one point in your journey, you might think, there's no way I can let go of those things. I need them. And then later on, because you're full of spirit, you're full of love, the fullness is coming from within, you find yourself letting go. This is the way I found it. So it doesn't have to, I don't know. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't have to sound so scary. And I wouldn't want anyone to feel like inadequate when they hear what I agree with you. I think what you're saying is true. But if anyone's listening and they feel a bit inadequate having heard that, don't worry. As you engage with your own spiritual path, that feeling of fullness and overflowing love increases within. And from that place of fullness, it becomes very easy to let go of everything.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I didn't mean for that to scare anyone, but I can see where the statement by itself would be, because if I would have heard that, I would have. It's kind of like a statement that I used to hear from Jehovah's Witnesses or from Christianity, that if you don't accept Jesus as your savior, you're going straight to hell, blah blah blah, and that's scary stuff. That's really scary stuff.
Yeah.
And that statement that I just made would be pretty scary too, because I remember when I first found I went from Christianity to A Course in Miracles, and I thought, oh my God, this is the Holy Grail. And I started reading A Course in Miracles, and I misunderstood what I was reading. And I thought, oh my God, I got to give up sex. I got to give up my marriage. I have to be, and it's a total misunderstanding of the ideas that were presented. And fear was was taking over. And that's the very thing that we find that we lose the fear when we just as the title to your session, freedom from suffering, the suffering and the identification as the archetype that is given to our culture and to my psyche brings us to believe that if to be spiritual or to have the things that Jesus was pointing to, the kingdom of heaven, that we have to give up this life. And what's amazing is you do and you don't. You make this momentary decision of awakening, and it seems to take over for you. It's not something behavioral that you actually can access. It's just something that your heart says, yeah, I'd really like to know who or what God is. What is that? And someone like yourself that offers, like Sri Ramana Maharshi, he had his very young experience of dying at 17 years old, I think, and having a death experience in his psyche, and it changed his life forever. And then he pointed people to that experience, that the death of the bodysuit is really nothing. It's and what is pointed to through satsangs is the investigation to the true self. So, Tom, thank you for being with us today. Would you mind just talking about what this session, Freedom from Suffering, that will be in your satsang experience at the conference? What would someone expect in that environment, in that session?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, I just turn up and see what happens, to be honest. But I guess let me say a few things. I'd hope that we can just meet and have a conversation and see if we can discover something together that is real and genuine, and take it from there. What usually emerges is a teaching that's right for that moment. I don't actually know how that works, but often, if you're what I think is, when people come to meet with me with an open heart, open mind, then magic can happen, and I don't take credit for that. It's just what I've noticed, and it's a wonderful thing. I can't promise that will happen. I don't know.
When
can I say something else can I say something else as well?
Yes, please.
Sorry. The other thing I think is, when in satsang, there's also there's kind of like two things going on at the same time. I know I call it non-duality. So non-duality means not to, but there's always a silent teaching there at the same time. There's the talking, there's the words. There's also a deeper, more wholesome, more connecting teaching that's happening at the same time through the silence. And some people, when they attend satsang with me, they've said to me, sometimes the words are very useful to them, but sometimes they don't even listen to what I'm saying. I try not to take too much offense when they say that to me. And I'm just kidding. And just the silence that's there, it can be so restorative. And it sounds a bit cliche to say, but the silence can be worth 1,000 words. a million words. It can take you beyond the words. So what can people expect? Hopefully we can, if you have questions about any aspect of spirituality, maybe we can offer some responses, and maybe we can clear some doubts, you know, on a level of words, and that's valuable. But maybe we can also come together on a deeper level, where we are already one, where we are already one, where we truly are.
So it will offer a space of experiential self-discovery then.
Perhaps, yes. I think that's definitely there, that potentially. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, it can, for some people, it's conceptual things they need to get cleared, isn't it? Sometimes getting your concepts cleared is very useful, and sometimes concepts get in the way, and we need that experiential connection.
Yeah.
And you know, both are good, depending where you are at. Yeah.
A lot of our folks that are watching right now are students of A Course in Miracles, and wonderful. That's where my beginning was, and I needed the non-duality to have the experience that I felt that A Course in Miracles was pointing to. And this is why we bring teachers of A Course in Miracles with teachers of the non-dual understanding together, so that there can be a richer, more broader opening for beings to have the direct experience that I think is available. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, the Course in Miracles is such a wonderful teaching, and it's such a deep teaching, and it's such an inspired teaching. But yes, it can also be easily misunderstood, and different teachings are given on different levels within that, you know, within A Course in Miracles. Yes. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on A Course in Miracles. It'll be interesting for me to learn from people as well, what their experiences of A Course in Miracles is like, etc. And, you know, I'll be happy to learn from them, explore. But what I found from people who come to my meetings who are well versed in A Course in Miracles is that what they tell me, at least, is that what I'm sharing is the same thing, and it cuts straight through to the core of it. Yeah. So I don't know whether the people, you know, who attend will find that to be true or not. I don't know. I'll let them decide. Yeah. But this is some of the feedback I've got. Again, you know, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to sharing you and also participating in your satsang, and look forward to having you at the conference. Tom will be our conference morning opener for the East Coast at 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, the last day of the conference. And Tom, thank you for joining with us today for this Facebook Live and giving our audience, the general audience, just a little flavor of what you're about, where you come from. You have a genuine, I love the gentle softness that you present yourself to be. I never met Tom in person, I mean, face to face, until just now. So I really appreciate it. We've emailed correspondence, and you've had emails with Marie, but we just met, and I am very impressed with who I've met, and I thank you for being part of the Know Thyself conference. Well, that's very kind of you to say, Bill. Thank you so much. Very kind words. Thank you. Very nice of you to say that. And likewise, it's been a pleasure to meet you. And I'm so glad that you invited me to this. You know, wonderful to see all the great stuff that you're doing. So thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful. You're welcome. Thank you, Tom. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you at the conference. We'll see you April 22nd to the 24th. Bye-bye.